Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we've got some interesting news. It seems Ian and Rich, two staff members at Creative Assembly who are fairly well known, did an interview with PC Games N in a very strange article known as The Future of Total War Warhammer 3. And there's some details of what they kind of want to do in the future, but before anything, if anyone from PC Games N is watching this video, that is an absolutely horrendous title which is tied to some really bad stuff which happened to Three Kingdoms. Yeah, don't name that clickbaity stuff that. I understand that you need clicks, but that is just in very poor taste. Anyways, we're going to go over bits of the blog because there's some things that we need to talk about, and yeah, let's begin. At the beginning of the article, not really much is said there. They're just talking about the fact that Immortal Empires has just come out, and it's got loads of content, stuff that we've already been playing, so we really don't have to stay here too long. It's just nice here that they mention that they wanted to do everything. It's the case of that they'll need to do more games, which, yeah, makes sense considering the scope and scale of Immortal Empires. They did need to make it 3 games. The fact that all of the games are linked up, obviously with Immortal Empires, makes it even better. So far, so good. The second part of the article gets a little bit more interesting. At the beginning, it's focused around just saying what they wanted to do, because they're all big Warhammer fans, so it's a nice thing, right? I've actually spoken to some members at Creative Assembly and members that are no longer at that company, and it's actually pretty cool when they start talking about their old armies and stuff, because as a tabletop person myself, you feel a little bit more at ease when a Warhammer game is being made when it's made by fans, right? The second paragraph talks about the fact that they would have liked to do settlement battles at the beginning, but it was budget and time constraints. I don't know how long that Warhammer 1 was in development, but I guess that kind of makes sense. Plus, yeah, it still needs to be ironed out. Let's be honest, the thing with settlement battles is just a bit strange. But this is where it gets a little bit more interesting, right? They talk about the vampire counts, and they talk about the fact that they want to do everything, and that they can't at the beginning. It just makes sense. But there's a quote here, right? I find it rewarding that we know that there's more to come. We can start talking to our fan base. We can start drip feeding little things here and there in the names, the background descriptions, the loading screen quotes. This is something that I've talked about in previous videos where, you know, they've already started hinting stuff. You know, we've got quotes talking about the Monkey King and so on, which is stuff that we're going to expect in the future. It's very similar to how in Warhammer 2 we already had hints talking about bear riders and stuff, which was clearly pointing towards Kislev. So yeah, when you start seeing loading screens, especially new stuff that gets added in through DLC or patches, this is stuff that you should be looking for, as that stuff is potentially a hint towards the future. Sure, some of them can be red herrings, and yeah, take a lot of them as red herrings, but you know, we've had a lot of content for all 3 games so far, so it's very possible that they want to milk this as much as possible. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of potential there. The next section here is actually quite interesting too, because it focuses around treating the Warhammer title like a history title, in a sense that they can't really just make new stuff. This is something that becomes a bit of an argument with the fan base, because yes, they do have to go by the law. They can't just make new stuff up. They have to get it approved by Games Workshop, although they do have a very good relationship, so they've been able to bend stuff around, like Vlad being alive, Isabella, Azag, well, Rapunzel is a really good one too, and the stuff with like the Ghost Wolves for Belagar, though mind you, that's actually a bit of a rule that they had. It's a grey area, but essentially Belagar could just do a really powerful hit, and that's just been changed to, rather than being a powerful hit on the tabletop, you have some Ghost Wolves, which I guess kind of makes sense. It's different, but you know, it's the whole ancestor thing. Next section is just talking about how they've changed stuff, especially for Immortal Empires, and then we get an interesting quote here, right? So the developers would love to tell you everything about it because they're super excited about what they're making. This is future content, but obviously we have to say the right things at the right time. It did feel like a good opportunity to, with the post-content support, reiterate our desires. It's hard making games. It's not an easy task. There are setbacks and challenges, but we look to overcome them, and we look to take inspiration from our communities. That's why we're always open in saying we want to hear about the good so we can make more of the good. We want to hear about the bad so we can either fix that or move away from that. Okay, yeah, fair play. The feeling among the team was we'd like to be more transparent and open going forward. We'd like people to understand what it is we're trying to do. Fair play, yes, their communication has gotten better. It's gotten a little bit quiet right now. They're mostly just posting memes and stuff, but Yeah, I guess it's because they're getting ready for the last big patch, which is, I think, due this month, and then they're going to go for Christmas break. But yeah, it can be said that their communication is a lot better. It was better than when we had the whole thing with, oh, release Warhammer 3 and then go dark, because that was just absolutely horrendous. And now we start looking towards future stuff, right? It seems transparency is something that the team is committed to upholding as new releases and changes follow, and it sounds like part of those changes might involve a whole new type of expansion for the trilogy, first tested with Immortal Empire's endgame crises. Right, this is going to be interesting. Let's talk. Alright, let's read over it. Our vision, our mantra for it was to have a suite of options and let you as the player choose which ones you wanted to interact with or even turn them all off. Yeah, this is what we've got here with the endgame crisis. We've obviously pretty much put all land masses into the game in Warhammer 3. We're probably not going to be increasing the map in size in those directions. Within it, we will absolutely reshape things, tinker with it, add depth, add challenge, and the endgame scenarios were just the first effort in trying to do that, okay, and give people a different experience. First up, let's talk about the map changes. The map can absolutely be expanded. We've seen that in the previous games, and don't take anything like gospel. This is probably that they got asked about possibly Nippon, Lumbria, or whatever, and they've had to say no, because Creative Assembly do this. If you ask them stuff, they're going to have to say no, because if they say, no, yeah, we'll be open to it, then people will go, oh yeah, Nippon confirmed, and then you'll start seeing Nippon when. This is going to be all over the Reddit and the forums and stuff, right? You'd expect a PC Games article website to outright know that, you know, the developers aren't going to tell you if things can change or not, because they know that the player's smart enough to kind of deduce what can be from there. I don't know, maybe it's the saying, yeah, it's not going to happen just to keep people quiet. I'm still holding out hope until they flat out say no. I'm not going to stop asking for it. They have to flat out say no. Keep in mind that they say here, probably, right? Probably could mean many things. I probably won't go and play Total War today. I probably won't have a coffee. I will, but I probably won't. But yeah, let's move on forward, right? There's absolutely no reason why, going forward, we may not do the kind of things where you have a pack of endgame challenges or something that you could buy as a DLC to freshen up that experience within Immortal Empires. No, do not do a DLC for endgame challenges. Do not do a DLC, please. I want more DLC. The game is great. Yes, it's getting better with patches. It's not in the perfect place right now, but every patch does kind of fix up an issue. I don't want dev time going to challenges or game experiences. I want the packs going towards characters, new experiences as playable factions, but not endgame scenarios and stuff, please. There's room to think about some more off-the-cuff DLC to put more gameplay in there rather than just churning out new models. Yeah, don't get me wrong, I'd love to see like changes, but new models are kind of important. New units for factions that desperately need it. You know, new factions, new playable factions is always great because it gives you a different experience with their own mechanics and stuff. But please, for the love of God, don't put dev time on a endgame scenario expansion pack or whatever, please, unless it brings in playable factions. Then there's mention of the whole thing with Tamukon, which is kind of interesting. It's probably that they got mentioned. Like, this is obviously a discussion which then they just paraphrase for these types of articles and stuff, so maybe they really did mention Tamukon, and that would be great because Tamukon was a great book. So yeah, can't really complain there. This is an interesting thing here, but Games Workshop supplements are also known for advancing the narrative of the setting, and with the sandbox of Immortal Empires being CA's prime focus going forward, is there still some room for these sort of big narrative milestones? First up, to anyone once again at PC Games N, no, the supplements did not push the narrative forward. Hell, those supplements kind of acted more of a, yeah, this is a fun thing, but it doesn't really move anything. If you knew Warhammer Fantasy, if you actually knew the setting, which, yeah, fair play, you guys are a PC Games thing, not actual tabletop website, the supplements for Warhammer Fantasy specifically did not move the narrative forward. The narrative stayed very stagnant for many, many, many years. This is a thing now that obviously has been done new with Age of Sigmar and Warhammer 40k, where yes, the narrative does move forward with supplements, but never for Warhammer Fantasy. So the last part here, it's what Ian set out to do in Warhammer Warhammer 2 to bring some of that in that we didn't have quite so much in Warhammer 1. We try to find the right balance where we try to bring in the lore to the forefront for people to enjoy. I knew that when we did The Ward and the Paunch. That's a great story from the lore of Elfarion and Grom that we had to tell. There's also the opportunity for players to make their own stories, but a structured narrative certainly has a place. We know a lot of people really enjoy it, so I think that you'll get to see some more. Okay, cool, yeah. I mean, we're kind of expecting that with TheSaltyCanadian anyway, because if they don't follow the story, that's going to be absolutely disappointing. So yeah, I'm really happy that they're going to still do the narrative. What the main thing is, just don't do a forced narrative. The Ward and the Paunch did it really well, where the narrative was there, but you could still enjoy yourself. You can still expand. Same thing with the Tomb Kings. Hell, same thing with the Silence and the Fury. I think DLC have done it really well, and Champions of Chaos I think has probably been the best iteration of, we're going to have story, but we're going to allow you to just kind of do your own thing. I think that was really, really good. Champions of Chaos, narratively wise, was for me really, really, really good. Let's go for the last thing here. There's a lot of stuff we've learned from Warhammer 2 and 3 about narrative and sandbox, and we'd like to take forward into the next stage and possibly experiment with over time with DLCs. It's something we're committed to getting right, evolving and improving all manners of games, not just Warhammer. It's something we know a lot of people enjoy alongside their sandbox. I think most players are interested in the sandbox other than anything else. But yeah, a bit of narrative, especially when you go for something really story-based like Warhammer, is important. Keep it on the line of how Champions of Chaos are done. This is me directly talking to Creative Assembly, I guess, because that was really well done. Champions of Chaos was just wonderfully done with the story. I thought that was really, really cool. It wasn't in your face, but it was there. And I thought that that was the best middle ground that they could find. It's something that I praised heavily when that DLC was in early access for creators such as myself, and I praised heavily on the review too. These types of interviews are always kind of weird for me because it's like, well, yeah, they give a little bit of information, but without really giving any information. So maybe DLC focused around flavor packs, I guess, or just like scenario packs, which I find kind of weird. I wouldn't be too worried about the whole probably not changing or updating the map and stuff to add in new landmasses. And this is something that is really important to actually talk about, because I know some people are kind of worried, but keep in mind that originally the plan wasn't even to have Cafe into Total War Warhammer. Like, Cafe was not even a fort, and that kind of changed. So this is kind of important to know. Plans change, forts change. As long as the game does okay, which right now it's okay, like yes, we're losing players, but it's been a while since we've had content, and the announcement, you know, the big brain announcement to say, oh, nothing until Q2, that's going to kind of do a little bit of damage, but I guess we just have to wait and see from there. I don't know, I wouldn't be too worried. I just want to talk about this article because, you know, these types of things are important to discuss. It might be something, it might be nothing. I still think they probably mentioned TheSaltyCanadian there and they're like, oh no, but don't say that we did, you know? Because why would they mention TheSaltyCanadian? It just seems a bit too out there, right? And these types of websites always just shill and like be overwhelmingly positive, which this thing was. This whole interview article was very, very positive in an effort to just try and get some insider information for them to, like, you know, do articles and stuff in the future. It's just how it is. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be positive, don't get me wrong, but the idea is, you know, you can't talk about all the good if you don't talk about the bad too. It's the balance. It's just how life is, right? Anyways, with all that being said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion, and until then, I shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day. I'm going to get some sleep because I'm recording this quite late at night and I am tired. See you guys.